So I am going to film my MAC eyeshadow collection for you guys today. I'm going to do some swatches. I'm going to swatch them out on my finger, and then I will do a swatch on my hand too, just for reference. I'm about an NW10. Mostly in the summer I can get up to like an NW15 sometimes. MAC just recently lowered the price of their refill eyeshadow pans to $6, which is really exciting. And right now, if you are a member of the MAC Select program, if you go on to the website, you can get $10 off of a $50 purchase, which is about a 20% discount. I do have an older video where I swatched out all of my MAC eyeshadows. I'll link that down in the description box in case you wanted to go back and check that out. In that video, I did offer some different color combinations than what I wear currently. So if you're interested in that, it'll be down there. It's a little bit of an older video, just so you're aware. So here's a quick overview of my MAC eyeshadows. I'm going to try and go through these as quickly as possible. This is my only single from MAC, and this one is in Brule, and it is actually a satin. This is described as a soft, creamy beige, and there is a swatch right there. Next up is a duo here. I believe this was a limited edition duo, but this one over here is permanent, and I think this one's limited edition. This one is called Radial Pink. It is a frost. That is a swatch right there. And it's a very soft, cool-toned, pastel, pale, matte pink shade. This top shadow up here, this is called Shadowy Lady, and that one is a matte, and it is described as a blackened plum there. Next up, I have my quad here, and I generally just swap out shades in here when I go traveling or something. So this top shade up here, this is one of my all-time favorites. It's so soft that it's forming like a hole in the eyeshadow, but let me give you a swatch of this one. This is Blanc type. That is a swatch of Blanc type right there, and it's a matte squared. It's described as a creamy beige, and it's just really buttery and smooth and blendable. I really like this one. This one right here, this is actually called Malt, and it is a matte. It is described as a soft pinkish beige, and I think this description is quite perfect for that one. This one down on the bottom here, this is called Haux. It's spelled H-A-U-X. And this one is a satin. It's described as a soft muted rosy brown. And I like to think of this one as Quarry's rosy brown twin. So that was Haux right there. That one right there is called Deep Damson. And I believe this is a pro shadow only, but you can still purchase it for $6. This one is a matte. It's described as a deep burgundy, and this is definitely one of my all-time favorite eyeshadows. It's really beautiful in the crease. So here are those four from the quad swatched out. This was Blanc type, Malt, Haux, and Deep Damson. Moving on to my first MAC dual-sided palette here. To cut out on the glare, I actually popped this insert out. These are a little out of order because I was switching them around when I was traveling, so I'm just going to go in order from the top up here and over to the right. This first shadow right here, this one is Shroom, and it is a soft beige with shimmer, and it is a satin. Next up is Phloof. And this one is a frost, and it is described as a frosted off-white. I really like this next one here. This one is Yogurt. This one is matte, and it is described as a soft pale pink. This next one here is actually Naked Lunch, and it is a frost. This one is described as a minimal pink with shimmer. This one's quite pretty, but I think I prefer Shroom over any other lid shade and as a highlight color, but that one was Naked Lunch. This last one on the end, this one is Retrospeck. This one is a Lustre, and it is described as a beached blonde, and it's an extremely pale soft gold shade right there. So this is Shroom right here, Phloof, Yogurt, Naked Lunch, and Retrospeck. Alright, starting on the second row right here, this is Quarry. This one is a matte and it is described as a soft muted plum brown. Next up is Moleskin, and this one is a matte. This is limited edition. This is described as a soft nude brown with a caramel tinge. Then we have a YouTube favorite. This next one is Soft Brown right here. And Soft Brown is a matte. This one's, like I said, a cult classic. It's a soft golden peachy brown. Then we have Texture right here. This is one that I prefer over Soft Brown, actually. Texture is a velvet, and it is a peachy brown with just the slightest hint of a gold shimmer. This last one on the end here, this is Swiss Chocolate. This is a really gorgeous crease shade, or even for the outer V, it's really pretty. This one is a matte, and it is a muted reddish brown color. So you can see the swatches here. This is Quarry, Moleskin, Soft Brown, Texture, and then Swiss Chocolate. Onto the last row. This first one on the left is called Satin Taupe. That is a swatch of it there. This one is a frost. This is described as a taupe with a slight silver shimmer to it. Next up, I have Cranberry here. This one's really pretty. This is like the quintessential fall shade. Cranberry is a frost. It's a red plum with pink shimmer. Next up, I have Nocturnelle. This one is also a frost. This is described as a pinked up chrome purple. One that is out of place is one of my all-time favorite shades. This one is Vex, and this is actually also a frost. This one is a beige with pink and green pearl to it. It's almost like a duochrome. I don't know if you're gonna be able to pick up that shift. This last one here on the end, this is Sketch. My Sketch is not very soft. Mine is pretty packed hard into the pan, but Sketch is typically a velvet, which is a little bit softer, and it is described as a deep burgundy with red shimmer. This one does not like to swatch very well. So there you have that last row. That is Satin Taupe, Cranberry, Nocturnelle, Vex. Maybe you can see that shift to it. It's like a pink and green shift. And then the last one there is Sketch. I am actually just going to leave my palette sitting down because I'm a little shaky and I think that you can see it from there. So going along the top row from left to right, the first shadow is Sun Blonde right here. This one is a limited edition shade. This one is a frost. It's described as a mustard yellow with a satiny sheen. Next up I have Steamy here. This one is also a frost. It's described as a bluish green with a gold pearl, and this one is actually quite metallic. Then I have Fig One. This is probably one of my all-time favorite shadows. This one's also a matte squared. I really like the matte squared formula. This one's described as an eggplant purple, and it's a very soft, buttery shadow as well. So that was Fig One. This next one here is one of my favorite shadows. This one is called Sable. It is also a frost. This one is a gold plum with bronze pearl. This shadow is quite versatile. You can wear it all over the lid, or you could also just toss it into the crease or the outer corner, and it just looks beautiful. This is probably one of my top recommendations for green or blue eyes. So this one is actually called Antiqued, and this one is a Veluxe pearl. It is described as an ash brown with bronze, and I think this one is more of a warmer reddish brown with a bronzy tone to it. It's really gorgeous on the eye. Here are swatches of the top row. This first one is Sun Blonde, Steamy, Fig One, Sable, and Antiqued. Alright, we are moving on to this second row right here. This has a lot of green shadows. So starting off with this first shadow here, this one is called Barefoot, And this one is a Veluxe Pearl. This is described as a tarnished golden yellow. I would describe this one as a dirty, warmer muted gold shade. This next one here is called Sumptuous Olive, and this one's really pretty. This is a Veluxe Pearl as well. This one is described as a khaki with a green pearl. This next one is very interesting. You can see there it has a lot of different dimension and a lot of different colors to it. This one is called Patina. This one is also a frost. I think frost might be my favorite. This one is very difficult to describe. The MAC website calls it a taupe brown with a golden pearl, but I guess I could agree with that, but it almost has like a pink tinge to it. This next one here is called Coquette, and that is a satin. I use this one a lot for my eyebrows since I do dye my hair black. This is described as a muted grayish taupe. This last shadow here on the end is Club. This one is quite popular on YouTube as well. This one is a satin formula, and this one is described as a red-brown with a green pearl, pretty much a dual chrome shadow. When you blend it out, it does turn to more of a warm brown. The swatches for that second row, there is Barefoot, Sumptuous Olive, Patina, Coquette, and Club. Alright, onto this last bottom row here from left. Starting at the left, I have Idle Eyes, and I just noticed that MAC recently discontinued the shade. I'm quite disappointed in that. This is one of my all-time favorite lid shadows. Idle Eyes is a Lustre, and it is described as a silvered violet with gold pearl. Next up is Scene. This one is a satin. This one is described as a muted blue-gray. These two shadows are actually really pretty together, putting Idle Eyes all over the lid and then putting Scene into the crease. And then I have Wedge here. This one is a matte. It's very similar to the Urban Decay Buck shadow from the Naked palette. Wedge is a matte. It's described as a soft muted beige taupe. This next one here is Shale, and this one's a satin. It's described as a mauve plum with a subtle shimmer, and this one's quite sheer. It's kind of hard to swatch as well. This last shadow on the right here, this one is Print. This is a satin, and it is described as a muted gray with shimmer. And here are the swatches for that last row in my MAC palette. Right over here on the left, you have Idle Eyes, Scene, Wedge, Shale. You can see there's that slight shimmer sheen to it, and then Print. Just as I was finishing editing the last little bits on this video, I had a package show up. These two eyeshadows here were back ordered, and they sent this last little package. It just barely showed up. So let me get these shadows out and show you the swatches. This first one here, this is Vanilla. This is a velvet shadow, and this is described as a peachy ivory with reflex. The second eyeshadow is beautiful. This one is called Handwritten. This is a matte squared, and this is described as a rich chocolate brown. It is so smooth and buttery. I love the matte squared formula. And here are those two shadows swatched out. So this one was Vanilla, and this one was Handwritten. And can I just say that these are both extremely buttery, smooth, beautiful eyeshadows. So this is actually my second dual-sided palette, and this is kind of my overflow and more colorful shadows that I don't reach for as much. I also have two duplicates over here. This is my first texture that fell on the ground and kind of cracked. I showed texture in the first palette, and then this other one over here, I have two of these as well. So I'm just going to pick these up and show them. This first one here, this is called Black Tide. This one is a velvet, and this is described as a black with silver sparkle. I honestly regret purchasing this one. The sparkle doesn't show up like this on the eye. It swatches on the finger better than it applies on the eye, in my opinion, and Like I said, I have 2 of these. I'm going to skip over texture here since I already swatched it. This is one of my all-time favorite shadows. This one is Stars and Rockets. This one is a Veluxe Pearl, and it is a purple with pink pearl. You can see there the shift to it. It's really pretty. Then next up is Tracks. This one is also a velvet, and this one is described as a violet duochrome with pearl. You can really see that pearl sheen when it hits the light. This last one here has a little bit of hard pan on it, but that's okay. This one is called Crystal. I believe this one has been discontinued or it was limited edition. I'm not 100% sure, but you can see there on my finger, it's almost like a duochrome as well. This one is a Frost, and it is described as a violet duochrome with pearl. So here are the swatches of that first row right there. This one here, this is Black Tide. I told you it does not swatch out very well. This one is Stars and Rockets. You can see how pretty that one is. Here is Tracks, and you can kind of see the golden sheen in that one a little bit. And then this last one here is Crystal, and this one is just absolutely gorgeous. So there was that row. Okay, moving on to the second row in the middle here. First up, I have Aqua. This one is very difficult to swatch out of the pan. Even though this one is a limited edition pan that I have here, I think that you can actually purchase this on the website currently. This one is a matte. It is a subdued pale gray aqua. And like I said, it's very difficult to build this one up. This is very sheer for me. Next up is Aquadesiac, and this one is a Lustre. This one is described as a deep sea turquoise. This is very pretty. This next one here is one of my favorite green shadows ever. This is called Swimming, and unfortunately I think that MAC is planning to discontinue this shade. This one is a Lustre. This is described as a medium grass green with a gold shimmer to it. You can see that shimmer really nice. Next up is a very intense shadow, a very metallic shadow. This one is called Coppering. This is a Veluxe Pearl. This is just described as an orange copper. Next up is this very intense shadow as well. This one is called Amber Light. This is also a Frost, and this is described as a peachy brown with shimmer. Okay, so that middle row right there is swatched out on my hand. First up is Aqua, then Aquadesiac, then Swimming, Coppering, and Amber Lights. So there are all of those shadows there. Okay, on to this last row down here. I only have 4 in this one. I just have an empty spot right there. This first one here is one of my favorite eyeshadows. This one is limited edition though, unfortunately. This one is called 3 Ring Yellow. This is a Veluxe Pearl. This one's described as a green tinged sulfur yellow. I really love that description. This one is a little bit similar to MAC's Chartreuse, but this one has just a little bit more yellow to it. Next up is this really fun one. This is called Tilt. This is a Frost. It's a violet with a blue-green pearl to it. I don't really see much green, but I can definitely see that shift from blue to purple. This next one here, this is one of my favorite summer eyeshadows. This one has really been through the ringer. It's one of my very first MAC eyeshadows. This one is called Electric Eel. This is a satin. It is described as a bright blue with shimmer. I really don't see any shimmer in the swatch or on the eyes. This last eyeshadow here in this palette, this is Omega, and this one is a matte. This is a soft muted beige taupe shade, and I definitely consider this one to be a true taupe. And over here on the left you have 3 Ring Yellow, then there's Tilt, Electric Eel, and then Omega. Alright, flipping this palette around, I have these 4 pigments right here, and I actually pressed these myself. I have a video on that in case you're curious about how to press any powder back into a pan form if you break it or something, or if you just wanted to press some pigments. Anyway, these are the crushed metallic pigments from MAC. I'll just do a really quick description on these because they were limited edition. They came out during the holidays, but you can probably still find these at a CCO. So let me go through these really quick. All right, first up right here, I have Marabou. This one is described as a lilac frost. This is an extremely pale icy pink shade with a crazy frosted metallic finish. Next up, I have Femininity. This one is described as a cool pink frost. This one's like a vibrant fuchsia magenta shade with an iridescent purple shimmery sheen to it. This one is my favorite out of the four. This one is called Prettified. This is a mauve frost. It is just gorgeous. This is a mauve tinged medium brown with a subtle burgundy tone to it. This is called Dusty Desire. This one is described as a rich purple frost. Definitely a rich dark purple with a subtle cool undertone to it. This first one here is Marabou. This was Femininity, Prettified, and then Dusty Desire. So you can see how gorgeous those pigments are. And those were called the crushed metallic pigments. All right, finally I have the MAC Cool Neutral x15 palette, and I'm going to go through this really quick. There are 3 eyeshadows in here that are permanent, so I will discuss those when I get to them. This first shade is Flounce, then Sweet Allure, Sun Tweaked, After Dusk, and then Blackberry. So you can see here on my hand, I have, this one here is Flounce, Sweet Allure, Sun Tweaked, After Dusk. This one's one of my all-time favorites out of this palette. And then Blackberry. And Blackberry is a matte, and it is one of their permanent eyeshadows. So there were the top 5 right there. This one is Pick Me Up, Cozy Gray, Crushed Clove, Deception, and Brun. Brun is also a permanent shadow. So here are swatches from that middle row, and this first one here, which was called Pick Me Up, you really can't see that. It's pretty much the same tone as my skin, and it's a little sheer. This next one is called Cozy Gray. This is Crushed Clove, then Deception, and Brun. And Brun is actually a satin, and this one swatches beautifully. It's really soft and smooth, and it's definitely a deeper, more cool-toned brown shade. This last row in this Cool Neutral palette is probably one of my favorite rows, and let me go through the names real quick. This one is called Silver Fog, then French Clay, there's Cumulus, Pearled Earth, and again there's Black Tide. I mentioned earlier I had 2 of these shadows. So here is the beautiful swatches for that last row. So once again, I have right here, this is Silver Fog, then French Clay, Cumulus, Pearled Earth, which is gorgeous, and then Black Tide. And again, Black Tide is a velvet. This one actually swatched a lot better than my other one. I think I might even just toss my other one in the garbage. So there are all the swatches out of the MAC Cool Neutral x15 palette.